And what I'd like to do is to thank you so very, very much, Jim Rosapepe, for joining us and being part of our new Zoom outreach. It seems to be the way that we connect with people nowadays. And we're here to learn about what's going on with the Biden campaign in the state of Maryland. Senator Rosapepe, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you guys. It's always a pleasure to be with the Roosevelt Democratic Club. I have to say it's an oxymoron to think of the Roosevelt Club as being muted. So I got to get my head around that a little bit. It's great to see so many longtime friends, my new colleague in the legislature, Delegate Williams, the mayor, members of the council. It's really great to be with you. And I have to say, the one thing I will say is I'm doing a number of these around the state, and I would say that the enthusiasm is everywhere. It's not just at the Roosevelt Club, which is good, because sometimes the Roosevelt Club is out of front, way ahead of everybody else. Folks are catching up, which is a really good sign this year, all over the state.
Right.
Just make a couple of comments and then happy to answer any questions if you want me to. I got involved in the Biden campaign before he announced. And we had lots of great candidates for president this year. And they're all united together now. And I'm sure many of them will play, probably all of them actually, will play big roles in the next administration, the next Congress. Some of them may be in the cabinet, some of them may play other roles, some of them will stay in the United States Senate. But they'll all have a great opportunity to work together. The reason I got involved with Biden early on is because I've worked with him, particularly when I was U.S. Ambassador to Romania in the Clinton administration. I was a leading Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee. And people don't remember this now because so much has happened in the last 20 years, let alone the last 3 months. But in the late 90s, there was a war in Southeast Europe. There was ethnic cleansing. Over 250,000 people were killed in ethnic conflict in Southeast Europe. And the United States, together with our European partners, worked really hard to stop it. And I was ambassador to Romania during that period of time. And so then Senator Biden was deeply involved in keeping unity among the NATO allies, keeping folks in the Congress focused on what we need to do. And the result was that we brought peace to the Balkans. And the fact is, that's why you don't hear about that much these days, because they're not killing each other. And that's where I got to saw Joe Biden up close and personal, to see his passion for democracy and for peace, his skill in working with people. People talk a lot about how he's great at working with Republicans. Well, I can tell you he's also great at working with ex-communists and anti-communists and Serbs and Croats and Bulgarians and Romanians and Ukrainians and people who have lots of disagreements that are bigger even than the differences between Democrats and Republicans. And I just was really impressed with him. And so I think he's going to be a terrific president. That's why I got involved. The reason I say all that is we're all united against Trump. But a message that I want to share with you, and I want you to spread the word to the extent you agree with me, it is not just about beating Trump. It's about electing Joe Biden, because he's going to be a good, great president because of his skills, because of the state of the Democratic Party right now. I was on a phone call about a month ago with Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio. And I said, you know, how do you see things going on? What do you see? What are you focused on? He said, well, obviously I'm focused on winning the Senate for the Democrats, which now looks very good, as you all see from the polls. We got a real good shot at the Senate. He said, but I'm as focused on, if we keep the House, we get the Senate, we elect Joe Biden, and this is very relevant, again, for the Roosevelt Club. He said, 2021, given the revulsion against Trump, if we have a big Democratic victory with both houses and the presidency, and the kind of energy that's in the Democratic Party from the left, the center, everybody, he said, 2021 could be like 1933, or like 1965, or like 2009. He said, these opportunities do not come along very often. They generally come along when the Republicans really screw up, like 1932 and like 2008. But we have to be prepared to take advantage of them to move our agenda forward, because we get chances to move stuff forward, just like we did with Obamacare in 2009. We then have to fight for it to keep it. But But he said he's focusing with a lot of the other U.S. senators on making sure that 2021 and 2022 are years of tremendous social, economic, and racial progress in the United States. So I say that to say this is the most important election of our lifetime because of the dangers, but it also may be one of the most important because of the opportunity. So how are we doing this? Obviously, everybody's pitching in every possible way. Delegate Eric Barron and I led the Biden campaign in the primary, and I have to get this plug in for particularly for those who were Biden supporters at various points during the primary process. Maryland had one of the 3 highest votes for Biden of all of 50 states. Now, when you got the Virgin Islands, we came in 4th, but Vice President Biden got a very big united vote in Maryland, which is important. That's important that people came together. The other thing that's relevant locally, and this is obviously less important in Prince George's and is other places, but throughout the state, certainly on a statewide basis, but in many, many purple counties, even some blue counties, the vote for Biden and Bernie Sanders and the other Democratic candidates in the primary in June was almost twice as big as the vote for Trump and the minor Republican candidates. That's a big deal. In Anne Arundel County, which is one of obviously our neighbor and one of the most purple counties in the state, 4 years ago, Hillary Clinton was the first Democratic presidential candidate to carry it. She carried it very narrowly. She was the first Democratic presidential candidate to carry Anne Arundel County, I think in 4 or 5 elections. We have a great opportunity with our campaign in Maryland this year for our congressional candidates and for Joe Biden to build the Democratic Party for Maryland and this is the opportunity where people are like, what are these Republicans doing? There's an opportunity for us to get independents, Democrats who may have drifted away to say, look, there's a reason you're a Democrat. There's a reason you need to be in the Democratic Party. So I think it's a real party building opportunity for us here in Maryland. And I know the state Democratic Party and the state central committees are really focused on that. But the other piece of it obviously is helping in the swing states. And that's where the Biden campaign is totally integrated with the state party on the effort to help in the battleground states, primarily our neighbors, Pennsylvania, Virginia, although Evelyn, we've adopted North Carolina as a neighbor too, which is great. There may be some other states that they asked us to work in, but that effort is all integrated. Obviously, if it's possible before November to do in-person campaigning, folks will do that. As we all can see from what's going on, given the way Trump, and I would say frankly Hogan to some extent, have handled the pandemic, I think it's unlikely that we're going to be able to campaign in person. But nothing stops us from campaigning on the phone. Nothing stops us from campaigning by text. Nothing stops us from campaigning by postcard. Nothing stops us from campaigning on social media. And so that's where the focus of the Biden campaign and the state party is. And they've set up a whole program. Much of it is on the website. You're probably going to talk about it more after I finish up. But they got all the tools in place to do that. And it gives everybody an opportunity. One of the things you may be interested in that I've been pushing for at the national level with the Biden campaign is to, in the battleground states, to do ethnic ID on voter lists, which can be done. We all have worked in campaigns where it's done. We want to be sure that there's the opportunity for African Americans, if they want to call African Americans, for Italian Americans to call Italian Americans. I was on a call with actually one of Delegate Williams' colleagues. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I can see his face. Our Nepalese colleague from Baltimore County.
Bhandari, Harry
Bhandari. He's the first Nepalese state legislator in the United States. He organized a national call of Nepalese Democrats. There were over 70 people on it. And he asked me to join it like this. And they were like, just get us the voter list with the name ID for the Nepalese, and we'll call them from California, we'll call them from Georgia, we'll call into Pennsylvania, we'll call into Wisconsin, we'll call them. So there's a tremendous enthusiasm for that. And if they get that up and going, it'll be an opportunity for all of us, to the extent we want to talk to folks who we have some commonality with. Doesn't mean we can't call other people as well, but I think that's one thing that a lot of people are pretty excited about, because obviously everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own And the most effective political pitch is something that comes from the heart and something that addresses somebody's real needs. So let me stop there. Happy to dig deeper, go broader, happy to answer questions to the extent I can. And really thank you for all you're doing. This is a very exciting year.
Great. And Nicole, do you want to take it from here on handling the questions?
Yeah, people can put their questions in the chat if they like, or you can raise your hand using, if you're under, see the list of participants, if you go next to your name, there's a little feature where you can raise your hand, or you can do it physically. So Carrie, I see your hand there, so let me unmute you. Why is it not working? Oops, hold on, Carrie, you're still muted. I'm trying to, can you unmute yourself?
I think she may be able to unmute herself.
Okay.
There we go.
I was in the wrong button. Okay. I'm very ignorant about the state of the Senate. Where are we short in terms of states? How many states do we need to, what majority do we need in the Senate to switch this, to flip the Senate over?
Correct me if I'm wrong. There's some people who know this better than I do, but I believe we have 51 votes in the Senate right now, including the 2 independents from Maine and from Vermont. If Biden wins, the vice president will then effectively be a flipped vote, because then it ties the vice president votes. So in real life, we need to win. We need to pick up, we only need to pick up 2 seats, basically, to have a majority in the Senate. We
Just 2?
to win quite a few more. I mean, our members could lose, but it's very, very close. The numbers in the Senate are close, and there are easily a half dozen or more U.S. Senate races that are very close as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Senator, I have a couple of questions regarding Governor Hogan and his decision to do in-person voting.
Right.
So I'm wondering, what do you expect to happen, and what can we do to try and avoid a train wreck, on election day?
Well, let me step back a little bit. The leadership in the House and the Senate, the Democratic leadership, urged him not to do what he's doing. The Democratic leadership urged him to do an improved job of what happened in the primary. What happened in the primary was you had mail-in ballots. They were mailed to everybody. It was not perfect. I had constituents who got instructions that were mailed in Spanish instead of in English. Although my colleague, and you many of know, Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Melnick, said, now you know what it feels like to get it in the other language. But anyway, but they corrected that. And so they got to fix some things, there's no question about it. But we also had these in-person polling centers, and we also had a place where people could drop off their ballots if they didn't want to trust the mail. We said, just build on that. Fix the problems, have more places you can vote in person, so you don't have the lines that we had in a lot of places. And nothing really practical, doable. Other states in the country do it. Other nations do it. I mean, this is not rocket science. I say with great respect to NASA Goddard. And so he rejected that. And I think he rejected that because of Trump and the pressure from the Republicans, who hate mail-in ballots because it makes it easy for people to vote. I mean, they're against, they don't like early voting. They don't like long hours. They don't like mail-in ballots. They don't like anything that makes it easy for people to vote, because they realize vote, the better we do. So the Republicans urged him to not have mail-in ballots. And so he tried to, as Hogan always does, he tries to split the difference. And so far, he's minimized pissing everybody off. But in reality, that's what he's trying to do. So in a political sense, we all are continuing to say, fix it, don't do that. You probably saw that the State Board of Elections had said it would cost $20 million to do what he's talking about. People are understandably saying, how are you going to staff all these polling places? Because his proposal is to have polling at every polling place. And as I think we all know, many of the people who work the polls are older people, retired people, who are the most vulnerable to the virus. I mean, it's insane from a public health point of view. It's insane from a democracy point of view. So we're going to keep pushing. I guess there's hope and there's plan. My hope is that when they realize and it gets closer that they can't possibly staff all these polling places, that he'll switch. We're going to keep pushing for that.
Right. So I guess the message that we should be sharing is for people to go ahead and do absentee voting.
Absolutely.
And ask for their ballots now.
Yes.
So that there's not a crunch at the last minute, so that people will actually have the ballot and mail it in.
That's a much more concise answer to your question.
Thank you.
All right. We have a question in the chat. This one's from Jay Davis. What is the Biden plan for the flyover states that we lost to Trump?
Well, it's very intense. That obviously is where they're putting the majority of their resources. They've been on television in those states for 3 months. In fact, I read this in the paper that in June, I guess, the Biden campaign spent more on communications and television in those states than Trump did. So they're very focused on it. They have aggressive organizations set up. They want us to help them by doing calling and texting and postcards in those states. And the vice president himself and Dr. Biden, his wife, have been doing, I can't quite get my head around it, but they say it works. They've been doing virtual days in states. So they will take a day and they will just be in Michigan virtually. So they'll do the TV shows in Detroit and in Dearborn and whatever, and then they'll do Zooms and then they'll do other things. So they're working really hard to focus on those states. And then of course, with the convention going virtual, they're putting together a series of virtual activities, but focused and based out of the battleground states. And unless things have changed since I last heard, the vice president is in fact going to go to Milwaukee to make his acceptance speech from Milwaukee. So they're very focused on all of those states.
Okay, great.
But can I add one thing?
Sure.
One of the pieces of good news is there are more battleground states like every month. So Texas, for example, which was not considered a battleground state months ago, now all of a sudden is a battleground state. And so the map is widening because of obviously what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's great. I heard that they're running TV ads in Texas, which I was like, oh, okay.
Absolutely. It's very exciting.
Yeah. All right, the next question, there's there's a bunch of questions in the chat, but I'm gonna try to get to the chat, and then I do see Tony, and then Shirley, I think you also had your hand up as well. But the next question in the chat comes from Ricardo, and he's very interested in improving our communication for our Latino communities. And so I don't know if you have any information about how we can also assist in that.
The thing to do is to talk to Delegate Jocelyn Pena-Melnick. She is totally tied into it with the state party effort in the state and for export. And she's also plugged into the national effort. I would definitely talk to her about it because she knows the specifics that are going on.
And then on following up on that point, we can insert the link and so forth, the information, so that folks can get in touch with her. We'll do that on our club website.
Terrific. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna skip around. Tony, you have your hand up, and then I'm gonna go back to one of the questions in the chat.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure if Senator is it Rosapepe or Rosapepe?
Either one, I answered it either.
I'm not sure if you can answer this, maybe Nicole, but as a follow-on to absentee balloting, I haven't seen anything in Maryland promoting that or explaining that for the general population. I think it's important. I've never voted absentee in my life, so I don't even know what to do. But I think it's important that we have, and this is like probably a Democratic Party, a Maryland State Democratic Party initiative, to really get the word out as to how to do it, when to do it, and what options they have for turning it in. I'm not a big fan of the post office And I think they're going to have drop boxes around, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, no? Anyway,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
My understanding there, but finish your question.
But that's what I'm saying, the whole gamut, what you do to get the absentee ballot, when it has to be requested, when it should be requested, when it needs to be mailed in, when it needs to be postmarked, where you can turn it in. All of those things will encourage people to do it, even though we're being told to go to the polls. I'm not one to go to the polls, so I'm going to go for an absentee ballot. Thank you.
Well, thank you. The short answer is the state party and the Board of Elections are going to be putting out a lot of information about it. It's not out there yet, to my knowledge, but it will be. But I say that's a perfect activity, frankly, for the club. In my legislative district, we in the delegation and with our colleagues in the county council and so forth, we're going to be, we actually had a call about this 2 weeks ago. We're going to be doing an integrated email, snail mail, ads in the local papers, robocalls campaign on exactly this issue to tell people, don't wait. You can vote absentee. Here's how to get the information. So I'd encourage you to do that kind of campaign in Greenbelt. I mean, incredibly helpful. And this falls in the category, if the Roosevelt Club doesn't do it, I'm not sure anybody else is going to do it. So the burden's on you. I think it's really important.
Right.
Jim, can you run us through it very quickly?
Run through how you vote absentee.
Yep.
Again, I don't want to confuse, I don't want to mislead you. Basically, you have to request a ballot. You can request a ballot online. They will send you the ballot. You fill out the ballot and you mail it back. That's the essence of it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and the next question is kind of basically similar. I'm gonna try to lump everything. I think it was probably already answered about how we educate voters on how to go about voting in November. And as you mentioned, Senator, the state party as well as the Board of Elections, they're going to start ramping up and sending out information about how people will be able to go vote, whether it's in person or via absentee. And then the next part of that, I'm kind of lumping things together. Also, do we see any vulnerabilities in those who did not vote or gaps in voter turnout for the primary?
Well, I don't know well enough to be specific to that. I mean, obviously the turnout was higher in the Baltimore area, because they had a mayoralty election going on. But what was interesting about it, and this goes to the point of why mailing ballot makes sense, is, as you know, we did not have a very contested presidential primary by the time we got to June 2nd, because all the candidates had rallied around Vice President Biden. Turnout statewide for the primary in 2020 was higher than in 2016. So what that shows you is when you make it, I mean, I always say this is what I call the 7-Eleven effect. You make it convenient, people are going to do it. And so make it convenient to vote, more people are going to vote. That's what the primary showed. There were problems, yes. But I mean, the other piece that I'm just going to mention on the policy side is that we're going to get through this election in Maryland. We got to make sure that people understand how to cast absentee ballots. But this has now focused. This is one, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This is one of the good things, of which there are a lot of things actually coming out of this crisis, and we're learning things. I'm hoping, and I'm a big proponent of voting by mail. I'm a big proponent of making it easy for people to vote. I'm hoping in the next legislative session, in preparation for 2022, because then we, the legislature, can decide what the rules are going to be. We're not relying on the governor. So hopefully we can fix it. One of the things, a suggestion I was going to make, we have a lot of very prominent community leaders in Greenbelt on this call. One thing you might do, if you want to, is cast your own vote by absentee ballot, and then post on your social media, I just cast my vote. I think try to create a little sense that folks who are active in the community and people in the club are doing it. I think it'll encourage other people to do it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And voter turnout, you're right, was higher all across the state. And I think even in Prince George's County, if I remember, our turnout numbers were much higher in this primary than they were in 2016. So there is definitely A lot of enthusiasm, even with all of the hiccups and everything that we saw. People still were managed to get out and vote, whether it was by mail or in person. I think I see Lynn Doyle with her hand up.
Hey, Lynn.
Go ahead, Lynn. Oh, we don't hear you, Lynn. Let me see if you're not muted. No, I'm still not hearing you for some odd reason. If you want to type your question in the chat, we can do that. All right, and I'll go back to the chat and see what other questions we have there. Where can we direct people who want to volunteer for the Biden campaign? So we'll get into that. And that's part of what we're going to do today. I'll share the link and about how you can make phone calls from the Biden campaign website. We also have a great field team here in Maryland that's led by Lethea West. And they have phone banks that are through the state party's coordinated campaign. So they have phone banks on Wednesdays as well as on Saturdays. And so one of the things that we'll try to do is get that information and have that posted on our website, as well as try to send that out to people. And if you want to get added just directly to their email list, just let us know. And we can send your email over to them directly, so you'll get the emails directly from the field campaign. Next question is from Jerry. What happens if the post office runs out of money in September? Hopefully that won't happen. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Senator Rosapepe, but yeah.
Well, it's worth worrying about, but the only thing I will say, and I'm not deeply involved in this, but I can tell you the Biden campaign is worrying about all of that. They're worried about every possible voter suppression activity that the Trump campaign and the Republicans could try. So they have a whole team of people who that's all they do is worry about that. And very frankly, not to freak ourselves out, but they really are also thinking about what we hold the election, the vice president wins, and Trump decides he doesn't want to leave the White House. I mean, they're also thinking through all those things. They're taking it real seriously.
Senator, I have a couple of questions. One, so do you think you will open up a campaign office? This was 4 years ago. You had a location in College Park where people could go, and it was convenient for people to pick up materials, yard signs, and stuff like that.
The short answer is I don't think so, but stay tuned. If the state party and the Central Committee and the local Biden campaign decides to do that. But I think one of the reasons is obviously related to the health situation.
Yeah.
So that's why the focus is on the virtual phone banking, not the physical phone banking. The other thing relevant to signs, I didn't mention on signs, and obviously this is a sore point, or may not be a sore point here, it's a sore point every place else, is where do I get yard signs? And the answer to that is you go on the Biden website and you buy a yard sign, or you buy 2 yard signs, or you buy 10 yard signs. Those of us who are a little older remember when you got campaigns gave you yard signs for free. Well, for about the last decade, the presidential campaigns have used it as a small donor fundraising device and reducing the logistical problems. So we'd love to have lots of Biden yard signs in and around Greenbelt in the area. The way to do it is go on the Biden website and you make a small contribution, like $20 or something, to get a yard sign. And you're doing 2 things. You're getting a yard sign, but you're also helping build the coffers, because even though Joe is ahead of Trump in the polls, we're still behind money. So all these small contributions help. And unlike other small contributions, you make a small contribution, you get a big yard sign. So it's like a win-win.
Yeah, sounds good. Maybe the club can, maybe there's some way the club could buy some signs. And
that's a great
sell them
idea.
to people.
That's a great idea.
At cost.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to our questions that we have in the chat. A couple of folks said they're willing to help and volunteer to work on the absentee ballot information initiative. So thank you, Tony and James, for volunteering to do that. The other question is regarding, I guess the other concern is, moratorium as it relates to, I guess, evictions and mortgage defaults ends, I think, literally yesterday. And families are going to be, it might cause some displacement. I'm paraphrasing the question now.
Sure, no, absolutely.
Amongst families moving and things like that. Have we thought about that and how to kind of deal with that as we're trying to do, I guess, voter outreach, because people may be moving because of this whole economic crisis that this health crisis is also causing?
The short answer is I haven't been thinking about it, but it's exactly the right question to think about. It's something to focus on. The thinking that I've been involved in is the legislature and working with the congressional people on extending the moratoriums on evictions, providing additional help for renters, extending unemployment benefits. You know, the expanded unemployment benefit, the federal level run out at the end, like in 10 days. So there's a lot of effort going in to deal with those issues. The other thing is, you know, you all, I'm sure, have been working, I'm sure you all sent in your census form. I represent College Park, and one of the big concerns, which I hadn't focused on until we started focusing on it, is with the census going on, while the kids are not here, they end up not getting counted here. And so a lot of things are screwed up by this, and folks are trying to make sure that we try to compensate for that. And the point you raised in terms of voting with folks being displaced is right on the money.
Right. So it looks like Emmett put in the chat, for those who might be interested, a link to the State Board of Elections website where you can request your absentee ballot.
Oh, great.
So you can go online there, request your absentee ballot. You'll get a form that you have to fill out, send it back, and then you'll get in the mail basically something similar to what we got in the mail in the primary. And then you would have to fill that out and make sure you sign the oath on the outside of the envelope. That's always the big thing. And send that back in. Let's see. Oh, and Carrie's willing to help out with the putting together the absentee info too. So thank you.
Great.
Let's see. And so Jerry's asking about a special session to deal with the election. Why not have the legislature do a special session on how the election should be run? I don't know if you want to take that, Senator.
Sure. I mean, there's discussion about it. There's folks who are urging it. There are folks who are saying it doesn't make sense because there's so many things going on in so many directions that trying to do that in the middle of everything else. I mean, just an example, I'm sure Nicole has exactly the same experience. Our offices are spending enormous amounts of time helping connect employment benefits. Yeah. And so there's a lot of things going on. And so there's some reticence to say special session. When you're not in a special session, it looks easy. When you're in a special session, it's very complicated with, you know, there are only 188 of us in the legislature, but when you add in all the folks from state government, all the staff, it becomes a huge thing, which then comes back to social distancing as well. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a challenge, but it is a discussion that's going on and will go on for a while. And that may be what it comes to, but at this point, there's not a plan to do that.
Right. Okay. And so let's see what next question. Someone shared the vote.org website as well that people can use. It's another good site. Let's see, if I need to make calls to our neighbors, an approved ID number or any form of HQ. So we're going to go over that a little bit. I'm going to put into the link in the chat in a little bit, a link where you could go on the Joe Biden website. The link I'm going to use is the one for Pennsylvania, but they have links to some of the other battleground states that you can call into: Ohio, Wisconsin, etc. And so we'll kind of I'll try my best to walk everyone through this whole process about how to go onto the website, sign up, set up your voter action ID that you will need to make the virtual phone calls from the Joe Biden website. And so I think this also goes to, Alex.
I think I see Neil Williamson. He's got his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Neil. I didn't see you there. Oh, there you go.
He's got to unmute himself.
So let's unmute you there.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, I just, well, I was confused because I thought the governor said the other day, well, we're going to send the absentee ballots out to all registered voters. Not necessarily, huh?
No, it's the reverse. You got to request it.
Oh, it seems like he might not have mentioned that. Oh, well, what a concept. Okay, well, thank you. So the link will be where?
It's Emmett put the link in the group chat
Okay,
or in the Zoom.
Okay.
so group chat.
You click on chat, and a long list will come up, and it's one of the links. I think we may be able to actually save the chat, or perhaps we can send that out later if you can't find it, but it's in the chat, group chat box.
Okay, I'll just search through it. Thank you.
Hey, Senator, what are you thinking about the vice presidential picks? Do you have, are you pulling for anybody in particular?
Nope. Above my pay grade. He's got a lot. Really, he does. It's like the presidential race. There were a lot of great presidential candidates. There are a lot of great vice presidential candidates. And this does kind of fall in the category of why for Joe Biden. I have great confidence that he's going to make a good decision. I mean, the guy has good judgment. You may have noticed that over the years. He has good judgment, unlike the guy we got there now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a little poll set up. We could do that now, or we could do that later. What do you think, Conrad?
Oh, that would be kind of a
Yeah, we
fun
can do the poll.
idea.
Let me see if I can put this up and see what happens.
Nicole used to have the jars back when we had 24 candidates running for president.
Yeah.
And you would put
So
your
is this our
pennies into
vice
your-
president poll, Emmett?
This is the vice presidential poll. I think we got 10 people on here. I'm going to launch it now.
Okay.
Can you see
And
that?
that way we can tell Joe who.
Ah, okay.
Exactly.
So everybody, let's see. Everybody cast your vote.
How?
I think you click on it or something.
Click on it.
No.
Okay.
Just click on it.
It's not.
Well, the candidate that I am supporting is not here.
Oh, Oprah Winfrey's listed there.
No, I'm talking about,
No.
the former police chief and on the impeachment hearing committee from Florida.
Oh,
Congressman Deming.
Val Demings.
Demings.
Val Deming. Oh, she should be on here. Yeah. Well, it looks like we've got
Take my vote back.
Kamala Harris. She should definitely be on here. And she was one of the speakers. Congressman Hoyer has a Black History Month luncheon every year, and she was the speaker. She's very dynamic.
Right. Yeah.
But the way that it's looking, Kamala Harris
Is
is
it
in the lead.
vote?
Nobody's voted for Hillary Clinton.
Hillary is okay. I think she's had enough of national politics for right now, or at least running for.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it. Looks like 40% for Kamala Harris. Susan Rice, Tammy Duckworth was second or tied with Susan Rice. Lance Bottoms, but Val Deming should have definitely been on here.
Yeah.
State.
All right, so we'll let the vice president know.
Good.
But also include the
with
fact
the
that Val
Roosevelt
Deming
Democratic
name
Club
is
has
not
to
on the list.
yes.
If she'd been on the list, she would have swept it, Conrad.
I want to share my hat.
Okay.
Oh, I like it. Now, what if this Make
Vote
America what?
blue,
Smart again?
Make America smart again.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Gotcha.
That's cool.
Yes, Jay, I see your hand raised.
Right. I do want to go back to that one topic, and I know that we don't want to talk about it right now, but I think I'm glad that you mentioned, what if Trump refuses to leave the White House?
Mhm.
He'll say the
Right.
election was rigged, everybody had mail-in votes, Therefore, that was all somehow changed by the Chinese or something. And he's already been practicing with his federal troops in taking people off the street and doing things like that.
Mhm.
How easy is it for a commander-in-chief to basically ask the military to do a coup in this day and age?
The short answer is I don't know, but the long answer is I think it's somewhere between very hard and impossible. Because of the culture of the U.S. military, number one.
Okay.
This is not a politicized military like in some other countries. It's a professional military. And we all know, living in Maryland and Prince George County and, Joint Base Andrews and Fort Meade. I mean, we understand what the American military is. The American military is loyal to the country, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Two, this is where we're going to like Republican senators, because even if they lose control, and I know this from my friends, mostly Democratic U.S. senators, the Republican senators dislike Trump more than we do. They dislike him because they know him better, number one. And number two, because he terrorizes them. So I think what you will see if that happens, I think you will see the Republican, enough of the Republican heavyweights who will be there. So I think it's highly unlikely, but it's worth wargaming. It's worth worrying about. It's worth thinking about. And
Yeah.
I think folks are worrying about it.
I'm just worried that it'll come out in the streets, because even if he attempts to do it, people are going to come out, and then there's going to be bloodshed. And it's just, it's a very fearful thing.
And that's definitely one of the challenges. There's no question about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think he's been practicing with the various federal police forces, and there's a reasonable chance he'll be sending them around the country in November to intimidate voters or people and such. And I was wondering, what are Maryland's state laws on federal police actions in the state?
Funny you should ask, Jerry. I actually had a conversation with Attorney General Frosch about that this week. And he and a whole group of other Democratic Attorney Generals are working on this issue nationally. And there probably will be various kinds of legal actions over the next, I don't know exactly when, but people are very focused on that from a legal point of view. One of the problems, and this is depressing, I try to be upbeat, but one of the things, as I understand it, is that the law on some of this is not clear enough. And it's not clear enough because of some of the laws that were passed after 9/11.
Mm.
And so that's why, from a legal point of view, Trump is using a DHS, because DHS was empowered in various ways after 9/11. Not all of us agreed with the powers that were given to them, but everybody understood why people were worried after 9/11. So it's a little unclear, but again, I can tell you, folks above my pay grade are really focused on that.
Okay.
I
Next
see
question.
Dina Lambert has her hand up.
Yes, I see Dina. There's also a question in the chat. Jeff posted, will they have a list of speakers posted on the Dem convention site soon?
Yes. I don't know what soon means, but yes, they'll definitely have a convention. Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so I guess as we get closer to that date in August, we'll have a better idea about who's speaking when. And a lot of it will be virtual and online, so you'll be able to watch from the privacy of your own home. And so, Dina, you have your hand up. You want to unmute yourself there?
Sure. Hi, everybody. This is my first meeting, so glad to be here.
Welcome.
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 I don't know if there's a way to kind of get any data on this, on those who may have been, let's say, Republican voters in the past who may be, starting to lean towards voting for Trump. if they can somehow be used as kind of a champion for their folks and friends that, you know, maybe more on the edge as well, to kind of get them to swing further towards voting for Biden. I don't know if there's any such data out there for that. And then the second question is for the Democratic Convention. What happened to the pledge? I guess delegates. I got an email a while back to ask for volunteers for those, but I haven't heard what the response was or how. And sorry, that's my 1-year-old.
I didn't quite get the second question. Did you get it, Nicole?
I think it was a pledge about volunteering. Was that it, Dina?
Yeah, it was for the Democratic National Convention, looking for volunteers to serve as I forget, it was like pledge delegates or alternates. And you completed kind of like a demographic form.
Right.
But I haven't heard as to, you know, what they decided or who they chose or
the state party made those decisions about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's on the Maryland Democratic Party website who was chosen. So that's done, and in fact, the Maryland delegation has had several meetings since then, entirely filled out. And the first question was. Now I forgot the
question.
Oh, hold on 1 second, Shirley. I think Senator Rosapepe answered the first part of Dina's question.
For those that are going to be swing voters,
right, I remember
next election, how do we encourage them to be more outspoken,
Gotcha.
to encourage their own kind of network to go in that direction, kind of to kind of take advantage of the dissatisfaction with
absolutely
either the Republican Party or Trump?
Well, there are various very organized efforts of Republicans for Biden, and there's also called the Lincoln Project. You can put it up in the chat room or you can go to the website. The Lincoln Project are a group of Republicans who have put together very funny ads, very funny social media. I mean, it's really tough, funny stuff that's directed exactly at those folks. So look at the Lincoln Project online. You'll get a lot of things you can share with folks there. I apologize, Conrad. I have got to sign off in about 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, Shirley, make it really quickly. Because
I will, yeah. And can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Just one real quick question. In regard to winning back Trump supporters or making them vote for Biden, there's one issue I don't hear discussed a great deal, and that is the issue of revitalizing the Trade Assistant Adjustment Act, TAA, which trained workers, provided training funds for workers who were, impacted by globalization. Obama tried to increase the program and revamp it, but Republicans and conservatives always, prevented him from doing so. So my feeling is that if those workers, which Biden is now reaching out to, knew that we were going to advocate for additional training funds to help them segue into new careers in the new economy, that might win them over. Is there any thought about doing that?
There absolutely is. And if you go to the Biden website, you go to their jobs and employment program, you'll see references specifically to that, I believe. So that's number one.
Oh, wonderful.
But I'll leave you with this, is particularly appropriate for the Roosevelt Democratic Club, is I say this without fear of contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
Biden is going to be the most pro-union president since FDR.
Great.
Deep in his soul. He talks about it all the time. And so that is one of the opportunities that I see in 2021 is a real support for strengthening the labor movement. With that, one other thing you could put in the chat is the link to Biden for Maryland, which is the website for the Biden campaign in Maryland. We're all working together, so it's not divided. But if you want to sign up there, we get notices out about different kinds of things that may be of interest. You just put your information there to make sure you're plugged in. And with that, let me just say thank you for all you're doing. I had no doubt that this was going to go way past overtime. Say a lot of questions, a lot of energy, and I'm happy to help you in any way I can.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
you.
Keep going.
Okay.
Bye.
Much appreciated.